world, given that there are stark warnings by IPCC and other researchers that the temperature heating is going on, and we really have to contain it to 1.5 degrees Celsius of the pre-industrial temperature, which looks quite challenging. But there are both sides, optimists and pessimists. But it's quite challenging, and for that, so today's topic is quite relevant. That how the different kind of nature-based solutions can be useful to offset and used as capture carbon and reduce the carbon emission, and then being helpful in containing the climate change impacts to the tolerable level, so that that human civilization can still be progress as we expect it to be. So our first speaker is Dr. Indu Murthy. Dr. Murthy is the center head for climate, environment, and sustainability sector at the Center for Study of Science, Technology, and Policy, CSTEP, Bangalore. So CSTEP is one of India's leading policy think tanks, and her areas of interest include climate change, vulnerability, land-based mitigation, adaptation, and resilience building, and climate-proofing development. That's actually a very short bio that she has forwarded, but I have seen her bio myself, and it's really quite enriching. She has published so many journal papers, I think around 70 or 100, and very high-level impact factor journals. And not that, she has also done very impressive work. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Our second speaker, though, I will introduce him a little later when he is about to speak, Dr. Sushil Gupta, and he will be talking about how remote sensing can be used as an aid, or really promote nature-based solutions. So today's topic is mostly on nature-based solutions, landscape management, ecosystem restoration, biodiversity. These services, how these services can really act as carbon sinks and capture carbon and mitigate the impact of climate change. So Dr. Gupta would be talking on the remote sensing, use of remote sensing tools and methods to promote nature-based solutions. And our third speaker would be speaking on, he would actually take us to the Khasi Hills of Meghalaya, where the RED Plus is doing a very useful intervention. So that's a quite interesting case study for the audience. We all know what RED Plus does, and it's actually, again, the ecosystem restoration and biodiversity conservation. So that case study will be quite useful to know. So we'll be introducing them after Dr. Murthy's talk. So I would invite Dr. Murthy to open the stage and give us a very enlightening talk and helpful, which will be helpful for the audience.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pradyut, and thank you very much to Kila as well as UNEP for inviting me for delivering this talk. I hope my screen is visible. If somebody could acknowledge that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Without wasting time, I'll jump into the topic that's been assigned to me. As very rightly said by Dr. Kuriakose right in the beginning, NBS is not a panacea. I mean, this is not the only way you can solve the climate problem. This is one of the key things that needs to be looked into. And the beauty of this particular solution or nature-based solution is that it helps address multiple issues at a time, which is what we will see. And it's a wonderful opportunity to kind of leverage a lot of co-benefits when you're addressing a single problem. So it basically helps you look at the entire ecosystem from a sustainable development perspective. So which is the beauty of NBS in itself. I'll just jump into the topic. So just to kind of set the perspective, some of you may have attended the previous webinar, so you're already introduced to the term, but just to keep the flow of the presentation, let's just look at what do we mean by nature-based solutions. Now, NBS or nature-based solutions are actions that are meant for protecting, sustainably managing, and restoring both natural and modified ecosystems. Now, these are aimed at addressing societal challenges, including climate change, food, water security, and definitely natural disasters. And these obviously have to be very effective, and it can be adaptive, and simultaneously they provide multiple human well-being and biodiversity benefits. So it basically addresses the three pillars of sustainability. You have the environment, you have the social pillar, and of course, when you address the two, the economic pillar automatically gets addressed because you're buffering losses that are incurred by such adverse impacts of climate change, as it was very clearly said by Dr. Pradyut also when he talked about why it becomes very, very important to look at nature-based solutions. Now let's look at NBS in the context of climate itself. As we all know, over the next 3 decades, an effective as well as efficient transition to low carbon economy is something that the whole world is talking about, including India. India is committed to net zero by 2070. The state of Kerala has also announced that it is looking at net zero very soon. Lot many other states across India have said this, and lot many countries across the world have set this date that they would like to hit net zero. Now, why this? Because they're all trying to achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement and to avoid what is called as the catastrophic impacts of climate change. Now, if you go beyond 1.5 degree, there are certain large scale impacts that are likely to happen. But if we hit beyond 2 degrees centigrade, the kind of impacts or what is called as tipping points are going to be extremely catastrophic. It's a point of no return. It's something like probably collapse of the Asian monsoon, or even the Amazon forests completely being wiped out over a period of time. They are the lungs of the earth. So these are very catastrophic impacts where there is no way of recovering these beyond a point. That's why they're called as tipping points, and they are boundaries, planetary boundaries that if we cross, there is no looking back. Now, the whole world is already talking about how do we cut down greenhouse gas emissions, whichever sector you want to talk about, be it transport sector, be it energy, be it waste, be it all the small scale industries also. Everybody is trying to look at how do we cut down carbon emissions. Now, greenhouse gases include not just carbon dioxide, but also methane, nitrous oxide, sulfur hexafluoride, so on and so forth. But the predominant one is CO2, and we say carbon emissions, but we actually mean all the other greenhouse gases also when we use that particular term. Now, despite all these emission cuts that are happening, it is still essential to look at carbon sinks, or what is called as nature-based solutions also. They become extremely essential climate strategies. Now, because they have the potential to supply, according to studies across the world, 1/3 of the equivalent emission reduction and removal that's required for achieving net zero globally by 2050 is likely to be delivered if we adopt nature-based solutions. And the mitigation potential is estimated anywhere between 9 to 14 gigatons of CO2 per year, right? And on the right, you do see that there are 3 different ways of achieving this. One is by protecting, the other is by managing, the third is by restoring degraded systems. Now, as of today, only about 3% of public climate mitigation funding is actually allocated to nature-based solutions. So it's an emerging area, as very rightly pointed out by the first speaker, or the first opening remark that came, which said, well, very little finance and it's an emerging area. This is compared to almost 40% that is actually allocated to renewable energies alone right today. So which is why NBS is an important strategy, and it is an emerging strategy, and I definitely would like to laud Kila and UNEP for picking up this topic to be discussed, because we need a lot of understanding around this to look at how do we solve the climate problem. Is there a way to use this opportunity itself? Now, nature-based solutions can address climate change in 3 different ways. One is through decreasing greenhouse gas emissions, which are related to deforestation and land use. Second is by capturing and storing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Third is by enhancing the resilience of ecosystems, which is your climate adaptation component. The first 2 are to do with climate mitigation, because you're cutting down emissions or avoiding emissions. That is climate mitigation. The second is to do with climate adaptation and resilience, where you adopt this strategy to help people and ecosystems adapt better to, say, flooding, sea level rise, drought, heat waves, wildfires, so on and so forth. But that's not all. These are just 3 things that we keep hearing about. You just look at this graphic out here. You are looking at multiple issues. At the end of the day, this approach would help us solve a lot of the problems which are extremely interconnected and interlinked. Gone are the days when we looked at problems in silos. Now, if you pick up a solution of nature-based solution, we're looking at not just climate adaptation and climate mitigation, but it is environmental management at the end of the day, because you're dealing with issues of water, you're dealing with issues of land, biodiversity, and of course, ultimately disaster risk reduction. So that way, it is an all-encompassing solution, provided it could be adopted in certain areas. Now, be mindful of the fact that it can't be adopted everywhere. It has its own limitations, and there are challenges as of today. However, there's been an increasing growth in NBS all across the world, as it's been illustrated by the unprecedented growth in the voluntary carbon market. Now, look at this graphic here. You see that it was quite minimal up till 2019, 2020. Suddenly in 2021, the number of carbon credits that were issued in the voluntary carbon markets, it increased multifold. 59 to 159 is quite a huge jump, as you would agree. And what predominated the carbon credit was forest carbon credits. This constituted about 1.3 billion annually, which is 2/3 of the total carbon market value. Now, voluntary carbon markets have grown simultaneously. There is one which is under the UNFCCC, which is legally binding. That's a different ballgame altogether. But then the voluntary carbon market is where private individuals, corporations, and others can issue, buy, and sell carbon credits outside of what is called as a regulated or mandatory carbon pricing instruments. Some of you may have heard about the Clean Development Mechanism, CDM, right? And then the RED Plus, which Lingdo is going to be talking about. So these are opportunities which have a certain mandate, certain framework under which it has to be followed. And now activities that remove emissions from atmosphere or reduce emissions associated with industry, transportation, and any other sector or any other aspect of human life become eligible for trading and in the voluntary market. Now let's look at which are the activities that are supported by the voluntary carbon market. As you see here, definitely forestry. Now under forestry, what is called as afforestation and reforestation, which is nothing but planting, right? There's a fine difference between the two. Let's not get into the nitty-gritties. What we are talking about is raising trees, man-made forests, man-made plantations that we mean by afforestation and reforestation. Now, improved forest management is, you would agree that although there are certain forests that exist, there is some level of disturbance and degradation that happens. Now, it can be managed to avoid the disturbance and therein reduce the emissions, which is what improved forest management is all about. The third is what is called as RED Plus. You will get more details in the case study that would come in later. But basically what RED Plus stands for is, it's the international framework, which in all encompassing one, which looks at reducing the emissions from deforestation. Deforestation is complete change in the land use. Like for instance, if forest is completely cut off and it is converted into, let us say, a settlement, right? Then it becomes deforestation. Now, degradation is a forest continues to remain forest, but then the capacity of the forest to hold carbon, which is through growth of the trees, reduces because there are selective elimination of certain trees. If they cut for timber or for other purposes, and that is forest degradation. Now, in addition, the plus stands for conserving existing forests, sustainably managing forests, and enhancing the forest stock through better management systems. Now, the second aspect or the second category of scope is agriculture. Now, here we could include agroforestry, which is basically growing trees on croplands, which is on the crop bunds or intercropping. That is something that could be done. And better nutrient management, that's how do you apply your fertilizer, your management of inputs, output comes in there. Improved tillage practices, because when you till the land, there is emission. Soil, when it is tilled, there is carbon emission that happens. So no tilling, reduced tilling, zero tilling, there are a whole lot of practices that agriculturists talk about. And also irrigation, water management, because methane emissions is a problem when there is standing water, particularly with respect to rice. And then organic inputs, livestock also, because the feed that is given to livestock could lead to nitrous oxide, methane emissions also. And the third large category is what is called as blue carbon, which is to do with mangroves and wetland conservation. Now, this is a very important aspect, particularly in the coastal zones. So these are the three broad categories that become eligible under the NBS activities. Now, just to kind of sum up, what are the three different carbon credit units that we are talking about? One is reducing emissions. Just to clarify, an example of a nature-based solution for looking at reduced emissions could be you reduce methane emissions from what is called as enteric fermentation in cows through application of feed supplements or changing the feed. Depending on the feed that is provided, the cows can, through the gases that are emitted by the cows lead to methane emissions. The second is avoided emissions. An example is definitely REDD+, where you conserve a standing forest from getting deforested or degrading. There you're preventing emissions, because if it is lost, if it is converted, it would lead to emissions. The third one is removing emissions, which is to do with carbon sink creation. That's creating new forests through plantation activities or through better agricultural practices. You improve the soil capacity to uptake carbon, that becomes your removal of emissions. So these are the three basic types of carbon. That said, these are fantastic opportunities which deliver a whole lot of co-benefits, as you would agree. But given the kind of knowledge that exists, there are a whole lot of challenges in the design and implementation of NBS. Broadly, I could categorize them as technical, second could be social, cultural, tenurial kind of issues, and the third is definitely financial. When we look at the technical aspects, some of these through technology can be addressed, which is what the second talk is going to be giving you insights about. The ability to measure changes in the carbon stock over time. Now, this is not one-time measurement. It has to be tracked because they are extremely dynamic stocks that are there. So it's critical to account for the changes that happen, how much is lost, how much is gained, where, and spatially explicit information is required, which is where remote sensing and other tools come into play. The second is to do with scalability and consistency. This is, you measure what happens as a result of NBS implementation across various different geographies or ecological zones. Now they have to be comparable. Now that is again a huge challenge, because the way the tools are there right now, they do not lend themselves to that. And the third is getting quality insights delivered at the speed of what they call as business. Now, this actual traditional ways of measurement are extremely time consuming. One goes to the field and measures. But on the other end, there are technologies available, but they are quite expensive, and then they require a lot of technical skills, right? So that makes it a limiting factor as of today. With respect to the social, cultural, and tenurial issues, as you would agree, if a farmer is traditionally practicing something, getting him to change that particular practice requires a lot of work. So because they lack the knowledge and the skills, and there is always resistance to change, particularly if you're dealing with agricultural systems. And there are issues of land tenure and social conflicts, because a certain parcel of land, if it is a public land, multi-stakeholders could have a stake in it, which means all the groups will have to agree. Otherwise, that could lead to land use conflicts. So which is again an issue when you look at NBS implementation. Now, the third is, of course, financial, which is at the heart of everything that gets done. A large part of the project development budget, unfortunately, has to be spent on the monitoring, reporting, and verification. Now, having a cost-effective MRV is right now a challenge, particularly if we are looking at projects where you have small plots which is dispersed over a larger area. That's an issue because you need to get information from all the land parcels. Now, the other one is there is no upfront investment capital that comes in these projects. So whoever is the project developer has to develop, and then there is a lag in time with realizing the carbon revenue, which is again a huge challenge in itself. But that said, there are multiple benefits of NBS, as we've discussed through the presentation and through the other remarks that came in as well. You look at this particular graphic that you see here, anything that you do, you are actually dealing with multiple ecosystems, multiple issues, and multiple sustainable development goals. So if you want to put together, the minute you do implement this, I think one of the participants right in the beginning put this remark in the comment box. Yes, NBS can help address a lot of issues that the environment is facing, the society is facing today, but it does have limited scope. Depending on the region, it might have to be looked at. So it's a case-by-case decision that has to happen. But ultimately, the way to look at this particular problem is one needs to take a landscape approach, because if you address one problem, it could trigger some other problem elsewhere if you look at individual components of the system. So which is why the landscape approach is the best approach when you're trying to look at nature-based solution as a tool to look at climate mitigation, climate adaptation, or even solving the problem of water, biodiversity, or flood protection, and so on and so forth. So I think this is the way forward. If we could kind of pull this in, then there is quite some scope. And I'm sure in the days to come, in the years to come, a lot of information, knowledge is going to be built around this. So with this, I'll stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Murthy. I think that's a very enriching and in-depth analytical discussion on nature-based solution and its interaction with carbon markets. So I would say that we'll keep the questions to the end. When everybody is finished, then that would also be time effective. So without taking more time, I would like to invite Dr. Sushil Gupta. Dr. Sushil Gupta is a DRM practice leader and vice president, risk modeling and insurance sustainability at RMSI headquarters at Noida. Dr. Gupta has over 31 years of professional experience in the field of catastrophic risk modeling, disaster risk assessment, and disaster risk management for natural and man-made hazards. Dr. Gupta is and was deeply involved in several multi-hazard probabilistic risk assessment studies involving least developing countries that are sponsored by the World Bank, UNISDR, UNDP, ADB, and various countries' governments. Dr. Gupta has authored more than 50 research papers, 30 reports, and co-authored a book, Coping with Climate Change Principles and Asian Contexts. Dr. Gupta was one of the peer reviewer of UNISDR Global Assessment Report 2011 and UNISDR Expert of Week in 2014 and 2016. Dr. Gupta is recipient of many awards and honors. These include prestigious ASRIA IITR Disaster Prevention Award 2011, RMSI Kalam Innovation Award 2016, ISET BN Gupta Award from 1997 till 2000, and RMSI Penn Ultimate Rewards for several years actually. Dr. Gupta chaired several technical sessions and conferences and delivered keynote lectures at international level concerts, international level conferences sponsored by the UN, ISDR, the World Bank, and UNESCO. I'm very sure Dr. Gupta would give a very interesting presentation, especially the use of remote sensing, linking it to NBS. Up to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Prajot, and thank you, UNEP and Kila, to invite me for this talk. I will share my screen. Could you please confirm is it visible? Hello, is my screen
Not
visible?
yet.
Just again, it's a problem. Can you see it now?
Yes, sir, we can see it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I have changed slightly to my topic, and I tried to, because already a lot of Dr. Murthy has given a very nice presentation on NPS, NBS related aspects. So I will be talking more on the application of remote sensing and GIS technologies for NBS in EcoDRR. Just a little bit background about organization where I am working. I am working in RMSI. This headquarters is in Noida. We have more than 5,000 employees here, and we have 3 delivery centers in India, Hyderabad, Noida, and Dehradun. We also have 6 global subsidiaries, and we have several highest level of certifications, and we work for more than 150 global clients in different continents. RMSI, we primarily do, we make digital and physical world to come together. We develop maps, we do digitization, we do modeling and analytics, and we develop network designs and maintenance. Industry focus in RMSI is we are working, we have 5 SBU, strategic business units. These are like, one is navigation and mapping, other is energy and utilities, third is telecommunication, fourth is sustainability, and fifth is land and infrastructure. And here I am working in sustainability division as a vice president, risk modeling and insurance. Sustainability overview little bit. We are helping business and government manage natural hazards since 1994. Our focus is mainly in the hydrometeor risk, geological risk, agriculture risk, property risk, infrastructure risk, urban risk, NatCat risk modeling, risk mitigation, and forest forecasting. And we have extensive experience of working with the state, federal government, multilateral funding agencies, insurance, and other private sectors. This is a travel history of RMSI in NatCat risk management. I'm not going to read through it. We'll be sharing the presentation so participant can go through. RMSI experience, we have worked in more than 35 countries in different continents, and these are listed here. If you see in India, we have several consultancies in disaster management, and I listed the projects also. We are mapping the world for more than 20 years, and we are the pioneer in map making. So for India, we prepared the first digital map for the city in India. We are working for every large map making companies in the world, and we are developing next gen high definition maps for autonomy. We are also helping utilities to improve asset integrity and reliability by implementing digital utility models and by digital transformation of operation and asset data, including the NatCat risk modeling. We are also helping utilities in network design solutions for wireless and broadband. And we are doing detailed engineering of wireline networks as well as SAED services for 5G. The SAED is site acquisition and urban design services. We are enabling large-scale government programs in land, infrastructure, and agriculture, and these are the examples. We are helping to develop the sustainable solutions to help communities become resilient to disaster and adapt to climate change and food security. So in this, we are working for TRR, climate change impact studies, water resource management. If you see the RMSI sustainability themes, the major themes, if you see the SDGs, global sustainable goals, we are working in food security, we are working in climate change resilience, we are working for resilient communities and infrastructure, and we are working for ecosystem management. So a lot of SDGs are covered under these. Our goal is zero casualty from any disaster, and we are working towards it. And our application areas are mainly disaster risk and insurance, and our key offerings are in pre-event risk assessment and mitigation, post-event damage assessment studies, probabilistic AI and ML based hazard modeling, hydromet hazard impact based forecasting, disaster resilient infrastructure, parametric insurance, assess impact of climate change to hydromet hazard, exposure and netcat modeling, and emergency management, including decision support systems. So we provide end-to-end solutions. That's our key differentiators. In agriculture also, we are developing solutions for sustainable agriculture development and food security. And I will give some examples on the agriculture sector also. In climate change, we are assessing climate change impact and prepare adaptation strategies for sustainable development. And application areas are climate change, risk, agriculture, and insurance. In forestry also, we are providing solutions for sustainable forest management. In application areas are forestry and environment, and our key offerings are forest resource information system, forest fire modeling, analytical service for forest management, timber volume estimations, biodiversity enumeration studies, training and capacity. So we are working mainly for multilateral funding agencies like World Bank, ADB, FDB, UNDP, UNDRR, insurance sectors in India, Asia Pacific and Africa, and government agencies like NDMA, NDRF, Civil Defense, SDMAs, and CWC. If you see natural hazard risk assessment, this basically contains 5 major modules. The first module we call that hazard module, second is exposure module, third is vulnerability module, and fourth is impact module, and fifth is risk assessment. So we are doing risk assessment, quantitative risk assessment. As you know, risk is a convolution of hazard, exposure, and vulnerability. And we are doing impact-based forecasting also for various hazards. I will come to that later. So basically, hazard we cover in these categories: geophysical hazards, earthquake, landslide, avalanche, tsunami; hydromet hazard, level flood, flash flood, cyclone, including cyclonic wind, because cyclone itself is a multi-hazard. Like cyclone can create damage from cyclonic wind, it can create damage from the storm surge, it can create damage from the cyclone-induced rainfall flooding. Then urban flood, drought, and forest fire. Also, we are also doing industrial hazard risk assessment, industrial fire, toxic release, and exposures. On exposure, we build exposure data. When I say exposure, that is all the built environment, including population and all the demographics. So if you see, when we say exposure data, so basically we quantify the exposure. How much is the replacement value of a particular exposure? For example, under this, if I say road or a building, so what would be the cost of this replacement? Or if it gets partially damaged, how it can be restored back or build back better? So these are the all elements we are considering while we do the exposure data development. And on vulnerabilities, we develop damage functions for individual systems, different type of exposure elements. And there are different approaches for it. I'm not going into the detail. Basically, this is a curve which provides you the damage ratios, mean damage ratios, along with the different hazard values. There are different methods, of course, by developing these vulnerability curves. So there are a few success stories for RMSI, the projects which we have done. For example, flood forecasting for Rapti and Bagmati river basins in India. So we have developed this flood forecasting system, and it has been implemented through a WebGIS based forecast and inundation modeling system, and it provides automated dissemination of flood warning to decision makers and community in the region of these two rivers. We have also done project on food security. So, for example, this is a project which has been done for Kenya, and district was MU, and crop was maize. So, in this, we have developed tool which is an agro weather tool to minimize crop yield losses. And
Sushil,
this
sir.
is provide. Yeah.
Okay. So, Sushil sir, can we to just maintain time?
Yeah, sure. So
Yeah.
I'm going fast. Don't worry. Yeah. Thank you. On climate change resilience, we have developed solutions for MENA region, and where we are showing that by the impact of climate change, Dr. Murthy also mentioned that for change, farmers are like a bit reluctant. So you can see how this, we have shown how for the wheat, which are areas that would, how that this climate change impact is shifting the crop land suitability, and through this picture, you can see which are the areas which would remain suitable in current period and end of century. We have also carried out a study on like transport sector, where we have impact of climate and disaster resilience in communities along Delhi INRO and Link Road corridor in Timor-Leste, which is a really small developing country. Along with, I also shown below that which SDGs it is like basically feeding to. So we have also done projects on ecosystem management, like estimation of wood volumes and forest surface areas in Madagascar in order to develop a wood stock account. We have also assessed climate change induced special temporal shift in natural and rain-fed agro systems to plan for sustainable development. For example, MENA region, Morocco, Tunisia, Syria, and Yemen. We have also estimated the impact of climate change in Madagascar regions in terms of reduction of timber volume. We have also supported IFC, World Bank, to develop climate resilient agriculture and food security in developing countries. And these are the countries: Niger, Yemen, Bangladesh, Nigeria. Somebody asked in the previous webinar that are we doing something on the coastal areas? So you can see that this is for PNG. We have done the project, and where we have like did modeling for flood, earthquake, strong wind, and landslide on the coastal region. This is another detail of that we have identified 5 provinces of PNG and did this work in detail. If you see the India landscape in agriculture, this is just statistics that 14% agriculture is contributing to GDP with applied of the 50% workforce. And demographically, broadest economic sector, you see agriculture is playing a key role in socio-economic fabric. Less than 40% of land is irrigated, leading to high dependency on weather. So we have another sub company in RMSI, which is named as Cropelytics. And in Cropelytics, we are doing satellite-based vegetation index. We are developing machine learning based models. We are developing Gram Panchayat level crop yield estimations. And when I say remote sensing, I would just like to introduce a term in remote sensing, which is called NDVI. NDVI is nothing but normalized difference vegetation index, and its value varies from -1 to +1. Usually, NDVI value from -1 to 0 represent water bodies, because the green reflectance is very low for negligible. And if NDI for 0.1 and below, will correspond to barren areas, rock and sand and snow. And for moderate values of shrub and grassland, NDI value goes to 0.2 to 0.3, while high value of NDI usually indicate temperate and tropical rainforest. So if you want to study a large region, satellite imagery is the way to study it, and through NDVI and other machine learning based models, one can study large areas in a short period of time. We are also working for agriculture insurance policy verifications and weather forecast based crop outlook. This is bit more detail on remote sensing based solutions on agriculture aspects. So this is like, for example, for the Bhadrak region, where we have done the random forest modeling based paddy crop yield estimation for the Bhadrak region. For example, when you see the satellite imageries, how in different satellite imageries you can even study the banana crops. So this is just an example of that. This is example of citrus plantation. If you want to do a manual or visual interpretation, this is a case study for Ganganagar Rajasthan. And this is a village prioritization based on a paddy acreage. This is a study from Andhra Pradesh Krishna district. We have also developed a tool which is called Cyclone Impact Forecasting Tool for 13 coastal state and UTs. As you know, IMD is providing forecast that a cyclone is going to come. But we are taking that input into it from the model, and this model is providing an impact assessment on different exposure element. For example, as I shown you, including agriculture in different areas, and how we can do the evacuation planning of the people before a cyclone impact. So through this web-based dynamic composite risk atlas and decision support system, we can do the impact forecasting of cyclones. Similarly, we are also doing impact forecasting. So these are the screens. I'm not skipping these. This is a complete model. Similarly, we have done cyclone, this integrated operation forecasting system for Jammu Kashmir and Leh and Ladakh region. Also, we are developing impact-based forecasting system for Andhra Pradesh. And I would like to show a 1 minute each video for this.
Shall we?
It's a very small video. If you can, this would be interesting to audience. It's a very small video.
There is no sound in the video.
Sushil sir, Neha here. I think we can actually share these resources with the participants after the webinar is over. Right now, there's some issue with the sound as well.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Gupta, for really presenting RMSI's experience and success in using remote sensing tools for NBS. So time is short. I think I'll hand over to Neha for the photo shoot and also the poll. Is that right, Neha? Or
Yes,
Dr.
yes. Dr. Monish and I will handle it.
Dr. Monish, yes.
Okay, so for all the participants, we have this very short poll after the technical session. So this is like to keep you active and also to be a little bit more interactive.
Monish, I think your level is a little low. Volume level is a little low.
Okay, yeah. Is it fine now?
Yes, yes.
So we would like to keep it interactive, and there is like 2 or 3 questions which we would like to ask to the participants. After the successful completion of the poll, there is also a UNEP merchandise which is also coming on your way. So I would request all the participants to please complete the poll, and it takes hardly like less than a minute to complete the poll. Neha, could you please activate the poll? So I hope all of you can see the poll questions on your screens. Can any of the participants, can you please confirm if the poll is still open? Okay, Neha, can you please look into it? Can you reinitiate the poll?
Yes, sir. Is it open now?
Not it, Neha.
Is it open now?
Yes, I think now it's open. Now it's open. Now it's open. So, dear participants, now it's open again. So, please go ahead with selecting your choices. Okay, now I start getting the results as well. So now I think technically it's working. Thanks, Neha.
Sir, perhaps we could also take the photograph after this.
Yeah, I will go ahead with the photos as well. So right now we have around 50% of the participants who successfully completed the poll. That is like in a time span of around 1 minute. So I could give another 1 more minute for others also to complete as well. Okay, I think we are almost reaching a saturation point because I see there are around 100 participants who answered the poll. That's around 68% of the total participation. So maybe in another 30 seconds, I can close the poll. So if anyone is halfway through, please try to finish it quickly. Okay. Neha, can you please end the poll now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for participating in the poll.
Can everyone see the results?
Yes.
Thank you. I would also request all the participants to switch on your webcam for a second, so we could actually take few pictures of the first round, and after this we will go to the case study round.
Dr. Monish will smile as well.
Yes, sure, definitely.
Okay.
So yes, everyone say cheese on your cameras, please. Okay, the third screen, I have like few more screens to go. Okay, thank you everyone. So that was, I got some very nice pictures.
So, Mike.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Prajod, you can continue.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Monish and Neha, for conducting the poll. So we come to our third speaker of today, Mr. Tambod Lingdo. Mr. Lingdo is a social worker and dons many mantles. He has been leading the Khasi Hills Red Plus project for a long time in the role of the Chief Community Facilitator cum Project Director. He's also the president of the Village Forest Council since 2001. He is also the vice chairman of the Joint Forest Management Committee and is advisor to various voluntary organizations, as well as president of the Maflang Sustainable Tourism Society and founder and secretary of the Maflang Sacred Grove Committee from 2011 till 2016. I think it would be very interesting to learn from him how this community in Meghalaya has fared well in conserving the biodiversity and ecosystem. So, Tambur sir, the stage is to you, please.
Okay, namaskar. Thank you very much, Safira, for calling me to give this presentation. I'm very so enlightened with the talk from Dr. Murthy as well as Dr. Gupta, because all these subjects that we are doing is also interlinked with what they have been already taught. Thank you for very much for giving me this time, and I would like to just go straight ahead for sharing with you the case study of what we in Maflang we are doing. And we are implementing the first RED project in India as well as in Asia, where the land belongs to the tribal Khasi community, where we also own the land as a community as well as a clan itself. Neha, please share the presentation. I'll just keep talking because I think my slides don't matter because it doesn't have any technical things. But I think my talk is really matter here. So I would like to continue. So we are doing a project on the Khasi tribal land where the community owns the land. And when we start a project in Maflang, because I'm already been working as a secretary of Imam Maflang for the last 15 years that time. So I call up the other indigenous traditional institutions to come to join together for a joint venture of protecting the critical Omiam watershed of Maflang, where it supplied drinking water to Shillong city. And on calling this, we are naming the name as forest landscape restoration in such a way that we are also striving for RED. Then when we start this in the year 2011, we are doing in the 23,512 hectares with a dense forest of 2,800 and the open forest of about 8,900. And we are involving about 86 villages from the 10 indigenous and traditional institutions, having working together with 7,700 families. So we developed this project in the year 2011 because we also know that why are not we trying as a community, why are not we trying to get the support or to get some funds to the selling of carbon credits? So we are very lucky and very, because due to the leadership I took into the matter of my hand, then we are able to get the first certified certificate in the year 2013. Next slide, please. As you all know, we the Khasis, we are not just far behind of anything else. We are having the indigenous knowledge as well as the community ownership, and we blend this with scientific guidance. And we have a long history of managing the sacred grove and the community forests. As you know, in Meghalaya is dotted by 215 sacred groves all over, and these sacred groves acts as the arteries for and the lungs for the whole state of Meghalaya. And you should also know that Meghalaya is having a matrilineal society where women groups are very strong, and all the titles and the surnames of the family goes to the mother. Next slide, please. And besides all these things that we have, it is about the land tenure and the carbon ownership, because we cannot, the world is one actually. We cannot really claim everything if we are not doing anything else. So by having the land rights, and also we are also having the carbon ownership. So as you know, we are doing this in a community land as well as the clan land, where we are under the Autonomous District Council. And we are also recognized by the 6th Schedule of the Indian Constitution. And the indigenous communities, we are controlling about 90% of the forests. And these HIMA, or the traditional institutions, or the kingdom, the petty states, the small states that we are working in, they are being coordinated together through a federation, where I am the secretary, and now at present I'm also holding the post of the founding chairman, where we also involve the village Dorbar as well as the community, so that enhancing the ownership and responsibility of the people. This is a strategy that we have. And one thing before I go ahead, I would like to tell this. You cannot do RED project without people, because in the Khasi Hills or anywhere in the world, we see that the most exploitation of the forest is not animals or any landslide or any natural calamities, but it's human being. So we form a federation, administrative body to involve all the HIMA. And then from the HIMA, they select the community facilitators, one man, one woman, so that they represent their HIMA, and then we're clustering the area so that these people will be able to represent themselves. As you know, the Khasi Dorbar don't allow women to come. So we are giving space to women so that women also can be the member of the LWCs or the working committee that shares the micro watershed, and they bring all the things to be discussed when they sit in the meeting twice a year. And we also have the youth volunteers. What approach is, we try to involve as many people as we can. We have both male and female youth volunteers, where they act as the fire washers during the dry season, and also they are also updating the village knowledge register, and also they are they are updating with all the sightings of biodiversity sightings and all, and they also taking part in tree plantation when we are planting trees in the cap. As Ma'am Murthy says, the AR and the afforestation and the plantation, but but in our project we are following the ANR, the assisted natural regeneration, where we plant trees only in the cap. So we have some project activities here. Next slide, please. We have the next slide. We have the herbalist. As you know, we are living in the forest area, where the people are being treated, not mostly by the allopathic or homeopathic doctor, but always by the herbalist. So these people, they are on the top of the list. And then we also introduce the fire management. We already have the sighting, the pre-control burning, we call it, so that we are not allowing anything to throwing the matchstick or the cigarettes or the smokes, the leftover of the smokes. We already do the control burning, or in the area where is the forest is very thick, we are also using the technique where the government is doing. And then, as you know, you cannot conserve forest if you are not enhancing the socioeconomic livelihood of people. So we are having about 260 self-help groups where we are monitoring and we are working with them. We introduced the fruit tree cultivation because you know that due to climate change, most of the thing is not growing. We introduced the mushroom cultivation. We introduced the stall fed. When we go to the meetings and the awareness program, I always tell the people, let us do the meat farming, or let us cultivate meat, because we know that we will need them, and all the people are eating a lot of meat. So we go and introduce the stall fed, like the piggery, the poultry, but not with the cows and the goats, because these are eating up all the new shoots of the trees in the forest. And we are introducing the vermicompost for organic farming, and then we are also helping the forest through silviculture. As you know that if you want to do the forest management, you have also to introduce the silviculture, where you prune all the weeds and then all the trees, and then the trees is growing very faster. And you introduce the home-based nurseries because we don't want to introduce the exotic species. We want to introduce the local indigenous species. And the last but not the least is ecotourism. Just now, I'm in the field right now. I'm talking from my Jeep because I am launching the camping, the trekking, and as well as the rock climbing and rappelling, because we know that we are having the nice place here. We want to also involve people through ecotourism, so that we can take them out from the forest, not to go to forest every day, but they will also depend on some other alternative livelihoods. Next, please. As you know, we are the first in India and Asia, as I told, but we still have a lot of challenges. Next slide, please. A lot of challenges. We still have drought here. You know why we have drought? It is because, next slide. It is because we don't have rain from October to March sometime, because all the water flows to Bangladesh and Assam, so we have drought. And then we also have loss of forest habitats because due to extension of road, due to creation activities, to many things here. Because our land is in the hill, I think you know it makes sense to tell you that if we don't really do anything, if we have all these things, then it will be havoc to us. And then introduction of exotic species. Please go back because you have been going to the last slide actually. The exotic species, the government is planting a lot of trees, but the thing is that what we are finding is they bring the exotic, they bring from the wrong place. They are not endemic, so this is low. And then we still have poverty. About 70% of people are in poverty. We have a lot of forest fire because it goes through many factors from the electric circuit. As you know, in the hilly areas, when you pass the one line to the other hills, you have to cross gullies. So these sometimes through the circuit, short circuit, they got forest fire is there. The climate change doesn't help us. The private landowners, these people, they are trying to grab the land and they are making it quarry land or charcoal production area where they have forests. And these are the things that the state is facing. And then people, as Dr. Moti says, that people are not really, the farmer is not ready to adopt a new livelihood activities. So we have to sit with them, we have to go to meet them, we have to involve them, we have to make them aware, and then we are so that we are able to change their lifestyle. And there is, though we have a lot of land, but we lack land management. So these are the challenges that we have. So as a community member or a leader, I may say, I've been working with the community for the last 30 years. We devise such a way that we use the community themselves as a mitigating factor, because we use them through our programs and all that. We go and meet them, we tell people, we simplify we simplify all the technicalities of what we have in the UN or in the country as well. And then we give them capacity building to those people who want to do some other things, the alternative activities or the bookkeeping and all that. Then we give them that. And then we're also introducing the ANR, as I said. Then the forests are coming back, forest fires prevention, forest watchers. We are doing plantations. We are giving them livelihood, alternative livelihood activities. We are strengthening the social fencing. I think you know why Sacred Grove is still here is because the social fencing is very strong. It's not just the elder of the village, but even a boy from the family will be feel proud of taking the responsibility and of taking care of their surroundings and the environment. The convergence, we know that the Manarega and all these things, and the government is having a lot of money, but they don't know where to give. So we are doing the convergence, having the list of people giving to the government. They help us from the horticulture, ICR, from Manarega, from the DC office, and then we're also introducing the alternative source of fire or source of fuels, because as you know that people have to go to forest to cut trees and all that. Now we are introducing the LPG. Modi is giving free to the BPL. We are giving free to the above BPL, but limited to those people who cannot afford to purchase LPG connection, and then also to the transition of a stall-fed from life to stall-fed livestock. So this is what we're trying, and it is a case study. So you already see here, even this quarry, when we are stopping this quarry, we are intimidating the quarry, the charcoal making, the hill sand mining, and all that. So this we stopped in 2007, but in 2009 it became a forest. If we put this is to Mountain Ram side, you will see that how you can go to how this is happening. And then the last slide, the result. I think most of you is already laid as well. You want to see the result. I want to tell you that the result is imminent. There are so many. It's not just that what we can prove in a form of money, but we can prove that the broader mindset of the people. I've been reviving more than 200 drinking water sources, because we know that one day the world will get dry, but local resources might be helping us. And we're also doing, we see this dam here in Mao Flong, but we supply water to Shillong, but we know that this one day will dry. But at least we should grow trees along the sides. That's why we are targeting this, so that the water level will not be minimizing when 2 years. And we also have this temperate fruit trees. We can sell like 4,000 per tree, and it's iconic fruit. People are drawn to this place, so that they want to get this. And then the watershed civilization and maintenance. You know that when the trees are there, that means what the whole watershed is stabilized. And then the forest regeneration and protection of wildlife habitat. We are introducing the camera trap, and we also trying to at least to conserve the habitat of the wild habitats, as well as the giving people some income through the community development grant. Through the village, as well as involving people, giving them the loan without interest, and giving them trainings and capacity buildings. And we are also introducing mushroom cultivation. We're also introducing the food.
Mr. Lingo, we have to speed up now. Can you?
Yeah,
please...
I'm done. I'm done. Actually, I want to talk only 5 minutes, but I'm done. So thank you very much. This is what we are doing here. And if you want to see us, you please contact us. We are ready to help you and extend to throughout India. We are extending the whole Meghalaya and now in Manipur, and we can extend even to the whole India. Thank you very much. This is my small presentation.
Prajut, can you hear us?
Thank you very much. Sorry, I just got disconnected for a few seconds. I have the questions for the three speakers. Shall I? I should start with, I think this question, the first question is to Dr. Murthy. What type of, I think probably it's to Dr. Murthy, yes. What type of trainings that have been provided to the locals in the disaster-prone parts of India? How did you measure the natural hazards? What type of discussion methods that have been used, either FGD or key informant, KII, etc.?
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for that question. Although I'm not really the right person to talk about, what is actually being done at the local level, because organizations like Kila are in the forefront of doing this work. So the disaster management aspects, and there are a whole lot of organizations like Kila. But that said, I do understand that, there has been a lot of information sharing, knowledge building, capacity building that has happened post the disaster that Kerala went through, the flooding event that happened. Now, as part of the state action plan, this, of course, this is something I can definitely talk about. There were a whole series of stakeholder consultations that happened. Now, the state plan, of course, is at a very high level. So which kind of looks at various line departments and then what needs to be done. But that filters down to the other levels also. So basically, all the FGDs and key informant surveys that have been mentioned, the line departments kind of take that into cognizance, and then they conduct a whole lot of discussions around it. But we at C-STEP, with some of the work that we do on climate risk, and how do we kind of translate that knowledge to the local level, we do kind of adopt all the methods that have been mentioned, and we definitely think that is the way forward. Just top down doesn't work. You need to build capacity at the local level also, and yes, that does happen in many places.
Ma'am, this question is for you, I guess. Using NBS in the context of climate mitigation, like carbon sink and carbon market, is a narrow way.
I've actually answered it in the chat box itself. So I think we can go to the next question. Yes.
Okay.
Save time. Yes.
Yeah. So, Dr. Gupta, this question is for you. What technology did you use in each of the case studies? For example, you mentioned crop analytics. So RMSI is doing multiple things, but I'm more curious about the process of technology used to get the results mentioned. So basically, the question is, he or she wants to know the process of technology used to get the achievements that you have shown. Dr. Gupta?
If this question, I will respond in subsequent email if person who has asked, so I can give in detail, because the question is related to politics. So I would like to answer it by the best person.
Okay. Another question is, what are the risk assessment methods for natural disasters? Is there any software available for that?
There are softwares, yes. There are some softwares are open source, some are private proprietary, like RMSI has developed its own softwares. But in case of flood, I can tell you that there are open source also, which we also use. These are hack tools, hack HMS and HackRAS, which are widely used worldwide. People are using these tools. So there are software for each hazard. For example, for earthquake, you have different tools. For cyclone, you have different tools. For landslide, you have different tools. So there are different tools, and for estimation, and for example, if you do end-to-end solution like we have done this impact-based forecasting system, so this encompasses everything from a hazard to risk assessment, and the user need not even know everything about these softwares, and user can use these tools.
Okay, this is a question from my side actually. I just want to know whether these technologies can really be customized to be used for farmers or the rural communities.
Yes, whether why not? Yes, in fact, I have done even some case studies, and we are doing it. We are mapping even each village, and what are the major crops and how damage patterns, yield forecasting. Even through, we are also conducting crop cutting exercises. We are using even drones also to fly the drones and see what is the different stage of crops. So there are a lot of like application that we are doing currently.
So can drones be? Is it affordable for the farmers in such in?
No, I think it is not affordable right now for the farmers. But yes, if you have a large area and That is also means I don't think its cost would be so prohibitive
Okay.
because drones are also different classes.
Thank you very much. One question for Mr. Lindo. Is forest crop livestock? I see a nexus here. Is this be harnessed through the kind of case study that you showed? Is it happening there? Instead of the trade-off, can we have all three of it, having or growing together? So the trend is more like, the forests are cut to give way for either shrimp farming or crop farming, that sort of thing. But can there be synergies? Mr. Lindo. I think he's dropped out or something. So maybe just one question, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm
Okay.
here because somebody has unmuted me. I cannot mute myself. Thank you for the question. And the question is this: people has been born with a kind of with the survival instinct. The survival instinct is with them already. The only thing is that if the surrounding is allowing him or become better at was before, everything can be done. So there is what we can say, that everything can be done because man has to devise himself to make to live simultaneously along and to survive along with nature.
Okay, thank you very much. Ma'am, a question like, so the carbon market is somehow always a very wonderful concept, but is it so effective? Are there really projects which offsets or makes these credits worthwhile? Is this, linking of corporates with the real effect on ecosystem, is it working? What do you think? There are some skeptics which say that there are also miscalculations and maybe not practically as viable as it sounds. But
absolutely, no, I agree. I mean, I think a very recent article or reporting which said a lot of the carbon credits, at least the forest carbon credits, is not real, was an issue. But that said, I think we have to look at the problem from a very different lens. Now, if you start looking at looking at all these solutions that you're putting together only for climate mitigation and carbon credit per se, then then probably we might be disappointed. But however, like I stressed during my presentation also, and I think I put it in the chat box also, why can't we look at the problem as a as something to be solved for better water, better soil, better natural resources, and your climate benefit is an icing on the cake. Now, if you get paid for it, it's an incentive. So I think that is the way to look at the problem, which is where, we need to change the lens through which we are looking at the problem. Now, can it really have an impact? I would say yes, because growing trees, we know they are carbon sinks. That's your basic school photosynthesis. That's the only natural process which can capture carbon dioxide. Now, we know that obviously, even the microenvironment improves. You have cooler climate in your vicinity when you grow trees. So growing trees is needed for more than one reason. So now in the process, if you can incentivize, then well and good. But at the same time, is it worth putting in so much of effort? If it is the voluntary carbon market, probably, maybe, yes, it has to be at scale. We can't take small parcels and say, okay, I'm doing a carbon project, because the cost of developing the project, the cost of putting together an institutional mechanism, a monitoring mechanism, is very expensive. So that is the challenge. And one has to bear it upfront. It doesn't come, a buyer doesn't say, okay, I'll give you money, you do the project. That does not happen. Now, if anyway, a group is actually trying to do it, but they want to scale it up, it is not baseline, but it's incremental, then you can try and see if you can tap the carbon market. So there are winners and losers. Big players, it's easier to manage. But if you're a small player, then obviously the cost is quite inhibitive. The technical know-how required is quite strong. That would be required, hiring the right set of people to do it. So I would say it's win-win. Depending on the case, it can be taken up.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Is there any question from the audience that they want to ask? Dr. Monish?
Surjot, I think most of the questions which are in the chat box we already
Yeah.
addressed. So I
Okay.
don't see any additional questions which are from coming from the chat box. But
Okay.
of course, I mean, if there are any other additional questions from the audience, they can unmute and they can ask.
I do see a direct question that's come to me, but I think for the benefit of the audience, if the moderator allows, I can read out the question and answer it.
Sure,
Yeah?
please go ahead.
Okay. There is a question which says, since there is shortage of land in India, considering forestry projects, can we register as a group project with VCS methodology to generate carbon credits? So I would say, yes, that's a valid point. Land shortage land competition is the biggest problem that India is facing, given that we also need land for, urbanization, expansion, settlements, and also renewable energy. Let's not forget that, that's also a way of addressing the problem, but that requires land as well for solar plants or wind power plants. And forestry is also essential. Now, the biggest challenge is it's not necessary that you have to actually grow new forest only. Many a time, even the existing forest, if it is managed better, can improve the carbon stocking. You need to conserve. Otherwise, you will lose what you have also. That's one thing. The second is, don't think forestry as only that is within the forest department tenure. It can be urban forest. It could be school forest. It could be on public land. It could be in temple land. So all of those are also forests. Now, there is a definition of a forest. It has to grow to a certain height. It has to reach a certain crown cover. So once that is met, then it could qualify as a forest. So we need to think outside the forest land as it is categorized and then try and look at it. Now, corporates do have a lot of land. I worked with Samsonite in trying to actually do a carbon crediting work for them. When I say carbon crediting, it was a consultancy work. So what they wanted to know is, as part of their CSR activity, they, in their production plant, near their production plant, because there's a lot of pollution that happens and there's a lot of emission, they did a lot of forestry. And they also distributed seedlings to their entire value chain and people who are in the vicinity of those factories. Now, they wanted to take stock and see, does it make sense? Are we actually doing it? So they did not want to get into the market, but internally as a company to label themselves as green, or to kind of label themselves as someone who's been able to offset their own emissions, they asked us to do that work. So there is value in doing this piece of work without even trying to look at that. So, and yes, small parcels can all be put together and the methodologies would allow you to do it, to bring them together and pitch in as a project. But there, your MRV costs, that's monitoring, reporting, evaluation costs, would increase. That's the flip side of it.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I think it's time to end the session. So 3 speakers and 3 eminent speakers have really gave very informative sessions, informative talk. So the audience have appreciated it as the poll, as the feedbacks are coming. So I don't want to add anything. I think it's time, and I leave it to Monish to wrap it up. And of course, Neha. Thank you very much, Neha and Monish from UNEP and Kila side, to give me this opportunity. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Pujjot. Like you rightly said, we have very good discussion.
The mic.
Thank you, Pujjot. So we had very good discussion and also very good sessions overall. So I think the audience, they were also very much interested to hear further details of different tools and different techniques of which we discussed. And in fact, definitely, like Gupta sir mentioned, they can directly email him and to know more about the tools and techniques which are used, and also, of course, definitely into Muti ma'am as well. Thank you, ma'am. So, Neha, could you please put up the poster? And so we have like a very small one question, two question poll on the feedback of the session. So I would request Neha to put like the feedback poll. So it's just one question. Thank you. Thank you. Let's keep the poll open. So I would also wanted to say a few words on actually the next webinar, which actually we are planning to do. Like you have seen, we have covered the NBS and also the science and technology part of it, and we would like to take in webinar number 3 this concept to the next level to see how we can finance MBS, or what are the different financial mechanisms available right now in the market, or right now at the larger scale, so that we could actually finance MBS. Along with that, we would also like to see what are the different entrepreneurship models which are already existing, and what are the different scopes for new models as well. So that will be the part of the third webinar. And we also would like to see what are the different kind of skills and tool sets which are required for coming up with NBS based solutions in the market. So these will be the 3 different topics which we'll be covering in the third webinar. Along with that, there will be also one of the startup companies which will be selected also to present their proposals and also their model projects which they are already working in, or already which they have conducted, which relates nature-based solutions to ecosystem based disaster risk reduction. So there will be also a platform for them to showcase their work, um, as well as for establishing a peer network with other startup companies, so that they could also learn from each other. So that would be also a part of the third webinar which we will be organizing. Neha, could you end the poll? Thank you. So I can see around 51% of the participants, they are very highly likely to join for the next webinar. I think that's a very good feedback. Thank you. Thank you all. And that's also the credit also goes to the speakers of this webinar as well, to keep the sessions very interesting and very enriching. So thank you everyone for that. Neha, can you please put up the poster for the next one?
One
Shall I?
second. One
Okay.
second. Can
Yeah.
you share?
Okay, so I hope my screen is visible. So on 17th of February at 12 p.m. we will be having our third webinar, and like I said, this will be also an opportunity for the startups who will be required to like send us their brief write-up or presentation about your work, which they are like doing related to NBS, and they will be also able to present their work in the next webinar as well. So that's more on promoting entrepreneurship and scope of market-based model for NBS solutions, and also the financing of MBS. Thank you. Thank you all for joining the current webinar, and we hope to see you all for the next webinar as well. And thank you. my dear speakers, and also Dr. Shekhar Kuriakose from Kerala State Disaster Management Authority for giving the introductory remarks, and others, and Prajot as well for moderating the session, and Indumurthy ma'am for giving a wonderful session on the carbon credit mechanism in India, and Guptaji on remote sensing, and also Ling Dong on the Red Plus project, which he is currently working on. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And thank you for all the participants for joining. So let us close this meeting here. Thank you and have a nice day ahead. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prajot, sir. Thank you, Tambor, sir. Thank you. Anu there?